Title: The Empire Built on Debt. What if the greatest empire in modern history was not built on soldiers, or ships, or land, but on debt? For more than 2 centuries, one name has quietly echoed through the halls of global finance, a family whose influence helped shape how nations borrow, trade, and rebuild. They did not conquer with armies or flags. They conquered with credit. Their story begins in the narrow streets of 18th century Europe, and it reveals how trust, timing, and information created a new kind of power, the power of the modern bank. This is the beginning of a financial revolution, a story of vision, ambition, and the invisible currency that still moves the world today. From a ghetto to a global network, the year was 1760. In the crowded alleys of Frankfurt's Jewish quarter, surrounded by walls and restrictions, lived a coin dealer named Mayer Amschel Rothschild. His shop was small, filled with ancient coins and rare artifacts. But behind those modest walls, he studied history through money, how each coin carried the memory of empires, the rise of kings, the fall of nations, and the rhythm of trade that linked them all. Mayer realized something profound. Wealth itself was not the source of power. Gold was heavy. Trust was fast. It could travel across borders, cross languages, and unite people who would never meet. He believed that if trust could be organized, if information, money, and reliability could move together, it could create a network stronger than any army. So, Mayer sent his 5 sons across Europe, one to London, one to Paris, one to Vienna, one to Naples, and one remained in Frankfurt, the family's foundation. Each son managed a branch of the family business. Together, they created something remarkable, a financial web that connected the capitals of Europe long before the telegraph or the stock ticker existed, through letters, couriers, and codes. The Rothschilds shared news of wars, markets, and political shifts faster than most governments could. They did not chase power through conquest. They built it through communication. From a small ghetto in Frankfurt, their reach expanded to the greatest cities of the Western world. And in doing so, they laid the foundation for a new idea that finance could unite empires faster than war could divide them. The power game of war and gold. The early 1800s. Europe is at war. Napoleon Bonaparte's campaigns have reshaped the continent. Empires rise and collapse in the span of months. And behind every army stands a question more urgent than strategy: who will pay for it? Wars are not won by courage alone. They are won with credit, coordination, and the movement of gold. In London, Nathan Mayer Rothschild, the 3rd son of Mayer Amschel, studies the storm from afar. He is young, foreign, and underestimated, yet he sees opportunity where others see ruin. Britain's government needs funds to continue its fight against Napoleon. Nathan has what few possess: a network that spans Europe and a reputation that others trust. Through coded letters and private couriers, he begins to move gold across borders faster than official messengers can deliver news. Every shipment is a silent act of calculation. Every transaction, a message of confidence. When the final clash arrives, the Battle of Waterloo. 1815. The future of Europe hangs in balance. While soldiers fight on muddy fields in Belgium, Nathan waits in London, his couriers ready. Hours before the British government receives word, his agents bring him the outcome: Napoleon has been defeated. Nathan acts instantly. He enters the London Stock Exchange and begins to sell British bonds quietly, deliberately. Traders watch, assume the worst, and follow his lead. Prices collapse. Panic spreads. Then, At the lowest point, Nathan's agents move again, this time to buy. Within hours, they acquire vast amounts of government debt at a fraction of its value. When the official news of victory finally arrives, prices surge. Nathan's calm calculation has turned risk into reward. But what mattered most was not the fortune gained, it was the principle revealed. Information, used wisely, could shape markets faster than war could change borders. Nathan Rothschild did not command armies or rule kingdoms. He proved that knowledge itself could be a form of power, quiet, swift, and decisive. While generals fought for territory, he mastered timing. While nations celebrated victory, he measured consequence. That day, the world saw something new, a glimpse of how financial intelligence could move the destiny of empires. The blueprint of modern banking. Waterloo was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning. While the governments of Europe rebuilt from years of conflict, the Rothschild family quietly began shaping something far more enduring, a system. They understood a truth that many rulers did not. That real power did not come from owning gold, but from controlling its movement. The Rothschilds organized finance the way engineers design machines with precision, timing, and structure. Their family network, stretched across Europe, acted like the heart of a single organism. Each branch in London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt pumped credit and information across borders with astonishing speed. Gold shipments traveled safely through their channels. Letters coded in invisible ink carried updates about markets, wars, and trade. Their communication was faster than most governments, and far more reliable. In a world without telegraphs or instant news, speed was everything. And the Rothschilds had it. They introduced tools that would define global finance for centuries. They perfected the sovereign bond, a way for nations to borrow money from private lenders instead of raising taxes or relying on royal wealth. Through these loans, they helped governments stabilize economies, rebuild infrastructure, and fund trade. But with every bond issued, their influence grew. The Rothschilds never asked for land or titles. They asked for something quieter: access. A seat at the table where decisions about credit, interest, and policy were made. This was not domination. It was design. They created a model in which trust itself became currency, where information was the most valuable asset of all. By the mid-19th century, their fingerprints were everywhere: in the railways that connected cities, in the canals that joined continents, in the banks that held the reserves of nations. They did not build an empire of flags or soldiers. They built one of letters, ledgers, and law. And that architecture, the network of movement, information, and trust, became the blueprint for what we now call the modern banking system. They showed the world how to manage liquidity, price risk, and balance credit between nations. Every central bank, every financial institution that came after, borrowed a piece of that design. In the quiet after the wars, while kings slept and governments changed hands, the Rothschild model remained steady, silent, efficient. They did not just survive history, they structured it. From a handful of letters and a family's belief in trust, the foundation of modern finance was born. The legacy of power. The Rothschilds never ruled a kingdom. They never wore crowns or commanded armies. And yet, their influence helped define how the modern world moves its money, measures its value, and manages its risk. Their power was not visible. It existed in systems, contracts, communication, and confidence. While empires rose and fell, their framework endured. They understood that true authority does not come from holding land, but from guiding the flow of trust. Every government, every enterprise, every citizen depends on that flow. By the late 19th century, their model had spread far beyond Europe. The same ideas, credit, liquidity, and information became the foundation for national banks, global markets, and, eventually, digital finance. Today, every bond, every central bank policy, every global transaction still echoes that design. When nations face crisis, they turn not to monarchs or generals, but to the quiet mechanisms of credit, the architecture first refined by the Rothschild network. They demonstrated that information is currency, that trust is collateral, and that debt, when used responsibly, is the engine of growth. Their legacy is not a secret empire. It is a blueprint that taught the modern world how to coordinate value across borders. And yet, behind the mathematics and mechanisms lies a simple human truth. The entire system rests on belief. Not belief in fortune or destiny, but in the promise that tomorrow's debts will be repaid, and that trust, once earned, will hold its worth. History does not repeat, it rhymes. And those who understand money understand empires. The empire of finance, uncovering the stories behind money, power, and history.